that the dispatcher should be trained Thursday and see the training just in case that
Well, why the hell couldn't you do this for us and we could have just left?
yeah, this is the first time I've ever done this.
Did you all work a full day already?
Yes, we
They
did.
did.
Well, we did. She's been there since 10.
Oh, okay, so you're, yeah.
It's only
Okay.
got 5 hours.
We are ready to go.
Oh, all right, well then for a year, I'm definitely gonna, try to apply through this one. Okay.
And you're in.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here, and sorry, I hope I don't extend your day too long here, but I'm Tim Destry. I'm a senior forecaster, one of the staff of, many meteorologists that we have in our office in Slidell. And we are the New Orleans Baton Rouge Forecast Office that serves this region that's on the map right here. Basically some southern Mississippi counties, but then all of Louisiana from the Baton Rouge, greater Baton Rouge area east and down to the coast, including, New Orleans and a lot of the coastal parishes. So we are responsible 24/7 operations, like y'all are here. So there's always at least 2 forecasters on duty at our office. And then any official warnings that come out for severe weather come from us for this region. So we'll just proceed forward. And, well, of course, there's always some little new thing I do here. Well, okay. Probably, unless you're traveling, this may not be extremely important, but just know that as you travel the country, there's many other offices that are responsible for weather warnings and advisories for other areas of the country. Lake Charles office to our west, Shreveport and Jackson other areas to the north in the outlying areas. I can, there we go. The Weather Ready Nation, I have a sheet about this. This is basically people we generally do business with through your office. We can have people that, we can have you all sign up either individually or just as a group for this. And we promote preparedness and encourage employees and members of a group to have a disaster plan.
That's me, I'm sorry.
There's a website for it here, and you're going to save a copy of this. So in case there's any web pages that go viral fast that you're interested, okay. So a lot of the web page activities, any web pages that show up that you don't have time to write down, or you may want to refer to later, you'll have a copy of the presentation later. Cocoa Ross, if you ever have an interest in reporting rainfall, if you're a big gardener or just like to keep track of things like related to the weather, this is a program you can sign up for with us. The Storm Spotter Guide, which I left one copy laying out for your reference, is also available online as well in a PDF format. It's 72 pages, 36 double-sided. That's the web link for it, and it has a little more detail than what all the time for today. There's also another online course that you can do through this MedEd website, and that is right there. Oh, that was for the chair or for the
Chair suites.
no. So the overview topics to cover we're going to do is not all this is going to be in as much detail as what I'm going to do tonight for the public training course at 7. But the purpose of why we're doing this, the climatology of severe weather, just to kind of give you an idea of when severe weather generally occurs, the types of tornadoes and the damage they occur that are produced, the downbursts, weather phenomena, the severe weather phenomena, straight line winds, general thunderstorm tornado development, and some of the reporting procedures where you'll have people calling in to you and you'll kind of know what's important information for you to take down if someone's calling in desperately, I'm worried about this or that, or I see this. You'll have a better understanding, hopefully, of that when you're doing dispatch or 911 activity. The purpose of it is, well, we want you to understand the structure and also to be safe when you're out and about when storms are occurring. Or maybe you're trying to help us by maybe going out in your car, doing something to try to get a better view of weather. Well, we want to make sure you do that safely. Also, reporting what you see through public safety agencies. Well, this is what we tell the public. You are the public safety agency that kind of passes it on to us. So we tell the public to go through, law enforcement or wherever to call in if they see reports. But we also tell them they can come directly to us as well. We have different ways through online or even calling us to just give us reports directly for severe weather. And the reasoning behind this, well, even with all the technology like the radar, mesonettes of observations, we still need reports to know what's the ground truth, what's really going on. So,
And there it went.
okay. So, still right here. Yeah.
Would you stop playing with stuff? I'm gonna throw something at you.
Okay. Here we go. So here's more about the importance. It's crucial to our warning decision process. When we put a warning up, we want it to be for a reason. We want to make sure there's very likely that some type of severe weather that could be hazardous to people or life-threatening. We want that to come out. We don't want to be what we call crying wolf or weather that doesn't materialize. So this all helps with us to really put everything together with the radar, environmental data, and then spotter information, the ground truth. So it's all part of our process of warning. And I just hit a wrong button. There we go. Okay. Back here, the storm reporting procedure. This is a little bit more important, and that's on this part of this. What's on the card and what's important. But this is some of the things that you say, manning 911, dispatches, or someone calls in to say they have a weather. Well, the same thing when we take a call into us, like if you're relaying it to us, this is what's important. If you're a train spotter, well, you will now be kind of like a train spotter, but you can also pass on this the who, what, when, and where is all the important stuff we need to know as far as what the weather is, when it occurred, the time. If you have a log, you do a log book of everything you do on shift. The where it occurred, and with references to landmarks or roads is important for us. And then just some things about reporting if you're out in the field, whether it's a squad car, just your personal vehicle, whatever, out and about, and you see something, maybe you want to help us out or just or protect or make sure you're safe and know what's going on. These are just some tips to look and describe what it is you're seeing. If you're talking to someone maybe about it, watch the trends, be informed, and know what you're looking at. And the bend your neck rule. If you have to look way up above and there's a foam cloud or lightning, you're probably too close. So it might not be safe if you're that close. And this kind of shows how when the clouds are all real close to you like that, and it's a little dark, and maybe things are swirling, you don't know what's going on, you might be too close. If it's back away in the distance, more on the horizon where you can see lightness underneath the darkness, you might have a better vantage point that's maybe more safe for you. So watches are warnings. Do you all understand the differences of how we do the watch phase versus a warning? Kind of like with tornadoes, with flash flooding and stuff, there's always a watch generally first and then the warning.
Watch go through.
Right, and it's can be up
Watch
to,
the warning.
the watch can be up to 6 hours in advance, say for tornado warnings and severe thunderstorms. Well, for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms, there's a watch first. It can be up to 6 hours in advance. Conditions are favorable for it to happen. When the warning comes out, that's when we're saying you need to take action. It's formed already, it's been detected by radar, or it's been observed, say, by a storm spotter, or someone else that knows what they're looking at. So that's the take action for the two words. One is be alert, watch, the warning, take action. Pretty simple.
Don't get your bend your neck rule with a little thumb piece, okay?
There you go. Bend your neck rule of thumb. This is just kind of reviewing again for tornadoes. Watches and warnings. Watches, tornadoes are possible. You may hear about it through a no weather radio alert or from maybe a TV meteorologist, or you have an app on your phone maybe for weather that says tornado watch has been issued for your area. That's the watch, like I said, up to 6 hours in advance. The warning comes out, well, tornadoes developing or has been seen, sighted. You may get it through no weather radio if you're old school and you still have that older equipment, but there's more modern ones where you can program just West Baton Rouge Parish or just East Baton Rouge Parish or a few parishes to get a buffer. And it'll alert you only for a certain area. But then the apps and the WEA on the cell phone is where you get the very loud alert. It's generally going to be in this region, tornado warnings and flash flood warnings. In areas that are prone for hurricanes, which I know you can still get, you may get a hurricane warning if there's extreme conditions from a hurricane that you're going to get in Baton Rouge. It'll probably have to be a stronger hurricane. But
A watch means get your stuff together. A warning means it's too late.
yeah, well, warning. I mean, watch. You kind of want to be in the prepared phase. Sometimes if it's a high enough risk, schools will even make adjustments to the class schedule, and they'll even adjust, say, oh, we're gonna let out class early because there's a very high tornado risk later today. That does happen, especially in some of the more tornado-prone areas of the country. The warning, yes, we want you to take shelter immediately. Go to the interior hallway or bathroom, on the ground floor, away from windows, skylights. Leave gymnasiums, cafeterias, and auditoriums. You know, those large span roofs. You see pictures of damage, you know, after the fact, and you'll see the Walmarts and places like that. Sometimes the roof just comes crashing down on people, you know. So, and I did that again. There we go. But there's an easy fix. Okay. So once again, the watch warning, just another be ready, take action. Storms will soon develop. Storms are already occurring. The severe weather is already occurring. This is an example of some different warnings. This is just based on Doppler radar. This could be a tornado warning for this area. Near Cross Springs, moving east-northeast at 30 miles per hour. What would you do? It may have towns in the path as well. That would help alert you that you're in this area, in case you don't know your geography as well as maybe others do. You know, not everybody knows exactly where towns are and if the storm is coming towards them or not.
I don't even know where a bridge is.
Where what?
Yeah, Chapel Basin Bridge.
Oh.
Really?
She thought it was a restaurant. Next subject, we'll talk about it later.
So this one is basically the same storm, but now we're adding in storm spotters have already reported damage to several homes along Highway 190.
That means it's too late and you should have left when they gave the watch.
Well, if you're in that area, yes, but if you're downstream maybe 10 or 15 miles, you still have time. But what the point of this is, now we're telling you, as the receiver of this information, there's been damage already versus the other one did not. And it kind of adds to it when you know, okay, this storm is actually producing damage. So it's really tornadoes on the ground, or there's some real serious wind situation that's blowing through that I'm more likely to take it seriously. That's the point of it as a receiver. This is our definition of severe weather. Should be on that card that you have displayed in the middle there.
Hail 1 inch or greater.
Yep.
Yeah.
Winds greater than 58 miles per hour, or wind damage. Someone calls in, reports, dispatch, whatever, roof is off my house, or big tree came down on my roof or on my car, or even big limbs can be a substitute for this, because large limbs coming off a tree, unless it's like a rotted tree or a termite infested tree, something like that, could be a different story. But a general healthy tree, you shouldn't get that major kind of damage unless it's close to being what we call severe. Any tornadoes and any type of severe flooding that produces flash flooding, to us it's significant, where we would want to know about it. So these are things we want you to report, though, that is a little bit below that threshold. That hopefully is on there as well. Even though it's not dime-sized hail, it's not 1 inch or bigger, 1 inch or larger. It's more like about 3/4 of an inch or a little smaller. But we still want to know about it because it's getting close to severe, what we call severe category. Winds greater than 50 miles per hour, if there's wind measuring equipment that you have access to. Any wind damage, any tornadoes or funnel clouds, and we'll talk about the difference there. Rotating wall clouds, and then severe flooding that covers roadways. What is a tornado? Okay, violently rotating column of air pendant from a thunderstorm. So it comes from a thunderstorm, and it's in contact with the ground. The condensation funnel, when I show you some pictures later, that's the part of the funnel that's the most visible, comes out of the cloud. But then the debris cloud on the ground is what really confirms the presence of the tornado. And that's where things are getting messed up, sucked up off the ground. Debris, you know, the pieces of, unfortunately, with the larger damaging tornadoes, the pieces of homes and different things, tree debris. So the good spotter keeps an eye on both the sky and the ground. That's just a general rule. Another one of those. So what do tornadoes look like? Well, these were very recently in the news from just February, the New Orleans East. And you may or may not have seen this humongous thing. It looks like a cloud on the ground, right? It's hard to even tell. Would you even necessarily know that's a tornado? Well, it is. It was a monster tornado in Acres, which is a kind of a very small community off I-55 when you come north from the Manchac area. And this started around Killian in southeast Livingston Parish. It went across Tangipahoa and was going right for Madisonville. We even had a tornado emergency because it was coming into the very populated areas of the North Shore, like Madisonville, Covington, and Mandeville. And fortunately, this thing decided its life cycle was ending, fortunately, because if it would have been like that, there would have been a lot of people that would have probably died. So, am I coming through okay? Oh, you want? Oh, okay.
I'm not watching.
Oh, you saw it earlier, though. So, yeah. Anyway, these are examples of very significant tornadoes. And then there's also tornadoes that are maybe not quite as strong, but that's a very common looking funnel cloud. But would you say, is this a tornado? It's either, I'll tell you, it's not something else. It's either a tornado or a funnel cloud. What do you think?
Oh, cloud.
Well, there's a funnel cloud there, but the definition of a tornado is if there's debris on the ground. So,
that'd be
so yeah, that's a tornado. That's correct. It's pulling up. There's like dirt there. The thing that's confusing is there's a gap. There's the funnel, condensation funnel, and there's the debris, and it looks like there's a little gap in between. Well, there's no requirement for it to be there. The two phenomena, well, the main phenomenon is debris getting sucked around. And if you watch this over time, you're going to see the rotation and everything rotating.
Got a stylus there?
And the only thing is, this always skips past me with this remote on the video. Okay. That one's it was acting a little weird for some reason. That's okay. If we go to the next one, that one should work. This is an example of a rain wrap tornado.
Occurred mainly in the southeast U.S. This is the one that produced this rain wrap tornado in Tampa, Florida. But they've been documented in all parts of the country. In fact, there is evidence that HP supercells may be the most common form of supercell
That's the
nationwide.
technical name, HP supercell. Oh, that's fine. We're not going to get into all these details of the supercell structure and names and that, but more of that is in the field guide and also the one that's online and any other training. These are some examples of what's most common on the Gulf Coast, what we call weak tornadoes, and I'll give you a description. They're the lower end EF0 and 1 tornadoes. And they're usually not really large. Sometimes they look like this, a little rope coming down, but a well-defined tornado.
I'm listening. No
You're going to see these other things?
Oh no, that's what I said. No problem.
That's
Still
good.
says phone. Still says phone. Got it. Well formed. I'm paying attention.
I know, yeah.
Still wait.
This is just a classic tornado you would see maybe in a textbook, but it's not a real large tornado. That one's a little bit bigger, but these are both what we call weak tornadoes. And I'll describe what I mean by that. But first, a little bit about our climatology. What time of year do you think most severe weather occurs? Spring, fall, winter?
Just between summer and fall.
Okay, summertime, there's actually a pretty good amount, and some of that is due to wind reports that we get from these, what we call pulse thunderstorms. In the summer, we get with the heating of the day, you get how, every day, a lot of times you'll hear thunder. In the afternoon in July, you get these afternoon thunderstorms. Well, there's a high number of thunderstorms in the summer, so some of them do become severe, but most severe weather when it comes to like the tornado in blue and hail reports in red, we're getting in that peak now, March, April, May, for that aspect. And when you combine it with wind, that's where the total chart here and reports is highest. But, and then time of day, what do you think is the most common time of day?
Afternoon.
That's very good. This is where it starts to ramp up. This is noon to 2, 2 to 4, the peak, and then 4 to 6, secondary peak. But at night, what's interesting, you'll see on some other graphs, there's still, it doesn't end overnight. And that's because of these seasonal, any tornadoes and hail reports that occur in these cooler months, say from about October, November into May or April. A lot of these do occur at night. You'll see a little bit of that when I show you, when I break down just tornadoes. So when I break down just tornadoes, this is the intensity. The zeros and ones by far are the most common. There's about, from 1950 to 2010, 60 years, there was about 529 tornadoes of EF0 and 1, but only 118 of 2, 22 3s, which would have been just last month. We had a few of them. 4s, only 3 ever, and never 5s. This is in our region that I showed you at the beginning, the area of responsibility I showed you that our office covers.
So what's it like in Oklahoma?
They would probably get still more of the weaker ones, but they're going to have more. We're going to have more of these 4s and 5s. Same thing, even if you go into like Birmingham's area and Birmingham, Mississippi's area, and Birmingham, Alabama's area, Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, Memphis. Some of these areas do get more as well because they call it the Dixie Tornado Alley. We're kind of just south of that area, really. But as far as time of day, this is interesting, and time of year, tornadoes occur just about any month of the year. The blue segments here never really, they're larger in November, and then March, April, May. But time of day is interesting too. Yeah, there's the peak in the afternoon, but there's a pretty decent amount of tornadoes spread out throughout the year because it can happen. As you know, around here it can get warm just about any time and get those clash of air masses. The Regina scale, we talked a little about the intensity of tornadoes, but what do they mean? Well, here's the wind speeds associated. The zeros could be on the low end of even below hurricane strength, like 65 miles per hour up to 85, and then up over 200 miles per hour for the more violent tornadoes. And this is the type of damage you typically see. And here's some photos of some damage that are typical of 1s, 2s, and 3s in our region that kind of fit with.
They won't know.
Yeah, yep. That one was interesting. I did survey this. Even though it's a 1, it looks worse. But what it was still partially uncompleted. The back side of this house had an open garage, and there was a wall that hadn't been completed. So the wind actually came in from the back side and punched the wind had to go somewhere, so it punched the roof out. Interesting. But once you have to consider the construction when you do these ratings of tornadoes based on the amount of damage. Some maps of distribution of tornadoes. This is kind of interesting. The weak ones, the zeros and ones that I showed you the scale. This is in a 62 year period. They're everywhere around our region. The areas you don't see them is probably where there's not many people or it's just water. Like here's the Chaffly River Basin. Although there's still some cases where you see them cross. But generally where there's more population centers, you see more reports, but it is just about everywhere. And then these little segments are the tracks. Some are little dots where they just touch down briefly, and that's it. And some where there's pretty long tracks. But generally, these are going to be a little bit shorter tracks than the next one, which is the strong and violent, which is the 2s through the 5s. A lot of these, especially as you get inland, and we'll talk more about why that's the case, why there's more up here than down here. It's related to the Gulf of Mexico, which I'll explain a little more about that. But there's higher density up in this region as you get away from the coast, although there's some areas right on the coast of Mississippi that have a little bit of a local war. But there's a lot of there's a pretty good consistent population in there. Same thing like New Orleans and around Baton Rouge, Lafayette. Now the violent tornadoes, this is interesting because our region that we're responsible for forecasting was from about here south. There's only been a few EF4s, no 5s. And as you get up north, once again, especially in Mississippi, there's a lot of 4s and 5s, and look how long the tracks are. And that's where you hear about bad news, when they happen. Unfortunately, a lot of times fatalities and extreme damage. Once again, this is just they're more common, the weak tornadoes, but they can produce some damage. The large span roofs and mobile homes are the ones that are most susceptible. So if there's going to be problems with people injured and hurt, sometimes people caught outside in their cars or in mobile homes, or if they're near a tree that comes down, that could be a big problem. This is an example of just what a track of a tornado at St. Rose and what it looked like on radar. This is a velocity signature, and these are some photos. By comparison, a stronger tornado on radar would have a stronger signature. This is a Pearl River County tornado from Christmas Day, believe it or not, 2012, EF3, and that had this more consistent, tighter, and stronger velocity signature than this one that was that produced this St. Rose tornado. Just wanted to show that. Strong tornadoes in our region, that's 2s and higher. That's an EF2 that occurred in Bush, 2011, and a 2 in Pearl River County in 96. Just some pictures of what typical damage. Mobile homes can start really getting pretty vulnerable as far as being destroyed. Even if they're strapped down, sometimes they still, when the winds get up to EF2, EF3 strength, they can still be easily, torn apart in a lot of cases. Other poorly constructed dwellings, and really the only safe place to be if you don't have a storm shelter is in an interior room and a hallway on the lowest floor. We don't generally have any basements here.
Bathtub.
Pardon?
Bathtub.
Oh yeah, the bathtub with that, and then if you're going to do that, even another layer of protection is to take a mattress with you for that top.
Said something about the bathtub down in it. Trying to teach you.
Yeah, and if it's a lot of times they're metal or just they're more permanent, where they're not going to just move as easily, and you can be down maybe below where the wind is blowing. So this is another picture from recently, the February 7th tornadoes. The Acres tornado occurred on that day as well, but very large EF3 tornado. There's the damage track that occurred in New Orleans East, out towards the Michigan NASA facility. Here's what it looked like on radar, and you'll sometimes hear the term hook echo or a pendant, and it gives this shape. It's a large supercell thunderstorm in this red area, but where the tornado occurs is in this little area where this hook is, and that's where the strong updrafts and rotation is occurring in the storm. And that's what it looks like from the traditional radar you most likely see on TV. But then a lot of times now the TV meteorologist or the Weather Channel will also show these velocity parts, which is where you can see the rotation, where the inbound to the radar and outbound from the radar.
I guess the polygons outside of that is the watch box.
Oh, this is the warning box, actually. The polygons. And one of them might have been a severe warning to start with, and then they got upgraded to tornado warning in red. Yeah, that's what the polygons are. A lot of software will show that when you're viewing it. Or if you go to our Weather Service page and look at a map, it should have these on as well. So that's what some of the typical EF3 damage would look like. This was in New Orleans. You can just see this very, a lot of significant structural damage, and a lot of these homes just had to be torn down afterwards. Same thing with this church. It was just really severely damaged, destroyed. If you don't mind pressing the button, see if it works this time. It will, good. This shows what an EF2 tornado does to cars. Thrown around like toys. That's a security camera. So watch what it'll just repeat now. I'll show you again what happens. Boom. It just lifts them right up. Showing you why, you might be okay in an EF0 in your car, but once you start getting 1s and especially 2s and higher, it's not a very safe place to be. This was just a map of a recent tornado outbreak that occurred last year in February. The distribution in our area was just fairly widespread. It didn't quite get into the greater Baton Rouge area, but areas just to the south. Some of the damage pictures from some different areas down in Painterville in Assumption Parish. And then this convent, unfortunately, is where some people did pass away that were in the RV park. Just not a safe place to be, as you can see, with stronger tornadoes. Violent tornadoes are extremely rare here, but this was one from 1983. Excuse me, Laplace. At 1 a.m. in the morning in December, EF4. Fortunately, no fatalities, but 25 injuries and 30 homes destroyed. And we're getting close to the end here. I'm sorry, hope I'm not. No? Okay, we're only half hour in, but we're getting close. Microbursts is just, I explained to you the tornado, how they work with funnels and the air generally is getting sucked up. Microburst is a sudden, short-lived, localized wind that radiates outward from a central point. So what's happening is all this rain, heavy rain and rainfall in the air is rushing down, straight down out of a storm. And when it reaches the ground, it fans out. And if you're on this area where it fans out, well, it's not a large area, but if you're in it, you can get winds up to 100 miles per hour. Commonly here, we'll see them maybe a little bit below what we call severe, 58 miles per hour. We'll see them produce maybe 40, 50 mile per hour winds, but occasionally 60, 70 miles per hour can happen here. The wind speed estimation, this is how you can, without having an anemometer or a weather station, you can estimate by things like whether large branches are in motion, whole trees in motion, twigs, branches coming off, chimneys starting to get damaged. This is getting up into the hurricane force range in here, transitioning from into trees, starting to get uprooted, shingles getting removed from roofs, windows broken, mobile homes overturned, and then on the higher end, this would be like your EF2 and higher tornadoes or major hurricane winds, roofs torn off, weak buildings, and mobile homes destroyed, and large trees uprooted. Squall lines, what they look like on radar, you get these lines, a squall line which shows up with this red coloring, and you get these little segments where you get these really interesting little curves and stuff. And I'll explain that, these bowing segments. There's a close-up of one here, that's a bow echo right there. And on the velocities, you'll see strong winds. In this case, it's going away from Slidell, away from our radar, so it's strong outbound winds. This bowing can last only 30 to 60 minutes in a lot of cases, but during that time, if you're in the path, it can produce a path of damage like a tornado, but it's not a tornado. A lot of times people will call thinking, maybe call you thinking it's a tornado, but it still can produce significant damage from straight line winds. See if this will go, and did it not work?
Is it trying to do that on canes?
This is going to work good. Canes, yep. Watch the train car. So there's the canes, and there's the bridge. And there's the train cars. And these were probably, from that squall line photo, I was showing you an example of some, there it goes. There they go. Crashing down to the ground. It didn't flow real nice there, but you get the idea. They were empty. They weren't loaded with all the cargo. They were empty cars. Fortunately, there were no other people or cars underneath the bridge when they fell off. But that was along a fast-moving line of storms like this that had that shape, and it was probably moving 50, 60 miles per hour. So that wind was just coming straight out of the backside of the Boeing segment. All right, one of the last things we'll cover is just talk about flash flooding. We've seen a lot of that in Baton Rouge. This was a case from 3 years ago of 6 to 12 inches of rainfall occurring in a short period of time. This is the type of flooding you get. Same thing happened in August, where you got the flash flooding first, where this happened, but then, well, what happened is it has to eventually get in the river system. So unfortunately, the AV River was completely overwhelmed, AV Kobe river system. So the areas, unfortunately, all downstream, from parts of Baton Rouge and Denham Springs all the way down to Lake Maurepas. It's just all the water flooded such a large area. But in this case, there was 10 to 20 buildings flooded from this event, and this was a lot lower end of that. Supercell storms, I just wanted to show you, you saw some radar pictures. This is just a schematic of a mesocyclone. That's just a larger scale thunderstorm. They get rotation. This is where the rotation occurs, and this is where the rain occurs, and hail, from light rain to heavy rain to hail, would typically occur in that. And it's a deep, persistent area of rotation, and then a lot of times the next phase is you get a a wall cloud that forms, and that's a lower cloud base, lower than the other cloud base where the rain's occurring. And that's in an area where the updraft in the storm is occurring. It's persistently can start rotating, and you get the strong winds feeding into it. And then next thing you know,
Oh, wow.
you get the little tornado, that can form.
With a tail.
Right, with the tail, exactly. And that, yeah, that's an interesting little tail on this wall cloud. There's no severe weather occurring with that. It's all right here where there's tornadoes. And this is pretty much, I'm not going to scan through, it's just showing you a schematic of our flow of information from as much as 7-8 days out, general forecasts. And we have Storm Prediction Center outlooks in the 3 to 8 day scale. As we get into about 2 days out, so say we're expecting, we actually did have a little chance of severe weather coming in Friday night, Saturday. Today's still just Tuesday. Okay, so it's still a ways out. We're still kind of up in this spring. As we get closer in, say 2 days out, we'll have a little more description about, well, maybe there could be a couple tornadoes with this. Maybe it'll be more wind, strong winds. Maybe it'll be hail and wind. But we start getting an idea, and we start doing these briefings where those that participate on our conference calls when we do them, our blast emails that we send out, we try to start getting that. Transitioning even sometimes when they're higher confidence, we'll do it even as much as 3-4 days out. Generally more about 2 days out, and then as we get into more like the 12 to 6 hour frame is when the watches and warnings come out, and that's when hopefully you've been briefed properly where you know maybe now, okay, here, yeah, this is really happening, what they said would happen a day or two ago. And then the watches from the Storm Prediction Center, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, maybe flash flood watches from us. And then down in shorter time scales with the warnings that we talked about earlier. This is just, I'll quickly go through, these are a Storm Prediction Center's page. They do the outlooks of severe weather for tornadoes, severe thunderstorms. These schematics of outlooks that you can look at various time scales. This one's 4 to 8 days out, showing a day 4 outlook, and it'll tell you what day is it. It'll say, this one just says valid during a 5-day period, but it should tell you what day it is 4 days from now. And then as you get in closer to the 1 to 2 day period, and even 3 days, we'll have these values of whether it's a marginal or slight or moderate or enhanced or high. There's all these different scales. It seems kind of confusing, but there's also percentages where it's a probability of occurrence within, say, 60 miles of a point. And different hatching will start to show up if it's expected to produce significant severe, like stronger tornadoes or very large hail or very strong winds. And I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but this is just what it would look like. This is showing how it verified an outlook versus the actual reports that occurred. In winds, a couple square dots had winds over 70 miles per hour, 75 miles per hour. The tornadoes look like they were all just, normal tornadoes. Sometimes we'll show where the EF2 and higher tornadoes occur. There's also the Weather Prediction Center. I know it's a lot to keep track of. Storm Prediction Center, Weather Prediction Center. This one does the excessive rainfall outlooks for flooding. This is the case of August 12th and 13th, which was the big historic flood that occurred here. And there was a high risk of flash flooding that was issued from that outlet. Yeah. And this is just an unprecedented amount of rainfall that occurred over. I mean, look, this is southern Louisiana. Right here in this little part of Mississippi. Look how large of an area the purple shading is 10 inches or greater. That's just an amazing amount of, now granted it was a multi-day event. It was basically like a low pressure system acting like a tropical depression. That might have had a name, but this one didn't. But it came in and just moved very slowly, and this deep moisture just kept producing the rainfall repetitively over the same area. The white is over 20 inches. So that's just an incredible amount of rain, unfortunately. Just a look at our page, you may or may not have seen it before, weather.gov. Click on a map in our region, this brings you to this page. These are our outlook, hazardous weather outlook that you can look at for maybe planning for weather spotter activation may be needed or emergency operations center activations. This is our NOAA weather radio for Baton Rouge area and the coverage map for it. We have a social media presence, Facebook, Twitter, and our traditional webpage. And then wireless emergency alerts, which make a very loud noise, but for a reason. Tornado, flash flood, and hurricane warnings are the most prominent for our area. But also civil emergency alerts can come through if there's like an Amber Alert, missing child, something like that. It can be used for that purpose as well. And I believe that can even be initiated from the other side. Right.
Yeah, not yet, but.
That's something you have capable. Once again, the sheet you should have, where it talks about what to report into us, or if someone's calling in to you through dispatch 911, this is the important information you would need from them that we would ultimately want to have at some point. We understand very large events like the big flood in August, you're not going to have time for us to bother you, but you keep a log or whatever you do, eventually we'll come back and want to get that for our record. So. Yeah, Anthony does that. Anthony does that for us. So you all help by just taking the calls and logging. But this is what we tell the public. Our direct lines. Also, there's on our webpage. There's a section to report damage online storm reports, and that's on this section here. But you all may or may not never use it. This is just a quiz. I'm only going to run out of time. We're getting to that.
I can't see the ground, so I can't tell you if it's a tornado or not.
I say it's fun.
That one, you are right, because there's no evidence of circulation on the ground. Very good. That,
A funnel.
it is a funnel. You still might want to report it to us because it's kind of ominous looking. It's pretty large, you know what I mean? And it's kind of low to the ground, so it could cause trouble later. And a lot of this is a still picture. When you visually watch it over time, you're going to see things that might.
We ever see one like that on our camera? I'm not.
Yeah.
How about this one?
We'll find you in the bathroom.
Dispatch is closed.
You'll be finding the bathroom.
No, Wiggles' office in our dispatch is actually a vault.
Frank Rivette is our warning
We have a
coordination.
door. We're good, it's gonna be- it'll be fun.
You know this, Frank is our warning coordination meteorologist for other questions, but I'm open to take any questions you might have. I know you've been through 45 minutes here.
Can we keep this?
Yes, you may. There'll probably be, there may
I've
after,
seen this one already.
yeah, well, just keep that around or whatever, I'll give it back.
Yeah, get out of Anthony so I put it in dispatch.